Who will Triple G fight next? That's a great question. Stick around and we'll talk about it. What is up, guys? Fight Phoenix here, coming at you with another video. Thank you so much for coming back. So, as you heard in the intro, this video is about Triple G and who the hell is going to fight next. Sometime last month, early last month, Triple G signed a 3-year, 6-fight deal with the streaming service DAZN. And the first fight of that deal was tentatively set for June 8th or June 15th. Now, June 15th is actually Tyson Fury's return to the ring, so it looks like it's not going to go down on the 15th, but rather on the 8th, which is fine by me. I like summer fights. However, the opponent hasn't been named yet. There have been a few names thrown around, but as of this morning, after reading this article that I read on my laptop by senior writer for ESPN, boxing writer Dan Rafael, that has been narrowed down to 2 fighters. 2 fighters who have received offers are Hassan Endam and Steve Rolls. Now, of the 2 fighters, Steve Rolls has the better record with an undefeated record of 19-0 with 10 KOs. However, there aren't many notable names on his record, if any. Hassan, with a record of 37-3 and 21 KOs, actually does have a better resume, in my opinion. I'm leaning towards Hassan Endam for the potential opponent. I think that would be a better, more, I guess, a tougher fight for Triple G. I don't think it's enough to defeat Triple G, but it's definitely going to give him some rounds. Considering how long of a layoff he's had, I think some rounds will do him some good. Triple G, I mean. As I mentioned, Endom has the better resume, in my opinion, with some victories on his record over Ryota Murata, Curtis Stevens, and Martin Murray most recently. With a record of 37 and 3 losses with 21 KOs, those 3 losses coming to Murata in the rematch. I believe it was Peter Quillen, if I'm not mistaken, and David Lemieux. So that's really nothing to be ashamed of there with those 3 guys. Of course, former title holders is definitely nothing to hold your head down about. Now, keep in mind that Steve Rolls is actually ranked at number 9 by the IBF. So that has to count for something, right? Now, granted, we're talking about the sanctioning bodies here with the alphabet soup belts and their rankings. So I guess we can, take it with a grain of salt, take it at face value. For what it's worth, he's ranked at number 9 by the IBF, and I suppose that has to count for something, in addition to him being undefeated at 19-0. Now, before we go criticizing Triple G here for taking on a lesser-known boxer, no matter who he fights, either Endom or Rolls, let's keep in mind that Triple G has had a pretty rough schedule. He's fought 2 fights with Canelo, with a victory over Vanis Petrosyan, sandwiched in between, and then a difficult fight against Danny Jacobs before. So, to be honest, I'm not too, I'll cut him some slack here. And I'm okay with that. I've noticed that sometimes fighters just need a quote-unquote easier opponent to kind of stay in the ring, stay busy, but not really have an opponent that's a real live ammunition threat. And that's pretty much what Canelo did recently with fighting Rocky Fielding. It was a little bit of a threat. Of course, he was moving up in weight, but the level of opponent just, wasn't on his level, in other words. And I'm getting that feeling from this fight coming up with Triple G. So I'm totally okay with that, considering that this isn't something that he does back to back to back to back, Danny Garcia. So I'm okay with, a couple of easy fights here and there, especially if they're tune-ups for a potential fight and a potential big money fight, which is kind of what's going on here. On May 4th or Cinco de Mayo weekend, Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Danny Jacobs, and it's going to be here in Las Vegas, and that in itself is going to be a pretty difficult fight. Now, according to, if all goes according to plan and Canelo is actually able to come away with the victory, there is a potential big money fight come maybe September, most likely, with Triple G and Canelo to complete the trilogy, I guess we can call it. Understandably so, Triple G is kind of taking it easy on this fight here, not really fighting someone a real threat, but someone is going to give him some rounds and keep him busy until this potential fight with Canelo. Or hell, maybe even Danny Jacobs. If Jacobs is able to come away with a victory and pull off the upset against Canelo on Cinco de Mayo weekend, we may even see a rematch between Jacobs and Triple G, which actually isn't too bad, isn't really shabby, because their first fight was actually quite close. I kind of got the impression that Jacobs actually could have won that fight. I don't think he won it because because he didn't risk enough, to be honest. It just kind of felt like he didn't win because he didn't want to. He was playing it safe, which I totally understand against Triple G, especially the heavy hands of Triple G. So I understood Jacob's position there. He wasn't willing to really risk much, and in my opinion, that ultimately cost him the fight because he was able to take Triple G's punches, even being knocked down, I think, in that second or third round, kind of getting back up and landing some punches of his own, some pretty heavy punches that made Triple G slightly backpedal before his fights with Canelo, which we've never seen him do that. So I feel like a rematch between Triple G and Jacobs might actually be pretty good. Maybe even Jacobs will come away with the victory. Imagine that. Imagine if Jacobs ends up pulling off the upset against Canelo and then following that up with a win over Triple G. Holy hell, that'll put him on the top of the rankings at the number one, at least in the middleweight division. Maybe pound for pound, but most likely just the middleweight division. So Danny Jacobs actually has the opportunity to be the monkey wrench, so to speak, in fucking up those plans with a potential trilogy fight with Triple G and Canelo. Now, before we even get to that, we still have to get to the June 8th bout with Triple G and the two potential opponents who themselves can be a monkey wrench and mess up the plans for Triple G before he even gets that. So before we even get that far as talking about a potential trilogy fight with Triple G and Canelo, because who the hell knows, who's going to win with Canelo and Jacobs, and we don't even know who Triple G's opponent is yet. We're probably jumping the gun a little bit and getting ahead of ourselves. So as of right now, or as of this morning, I should say, Hassan Endom and Steve Rolls are the two potential fighters that or potential opponents that could be on deck for Triple G come June 8th. As I was saying earlier, I'm leaning towards Hassan Endom. Hopefully that's the fight that gets made. And then, of course, everything else according to plan should the boxing gods grant us a trilogy with Triple G and Canelo. So that's about it, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much again for joining me and letting me or lending me your ear so I can ramble about boxing. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell as well to get the notifications anytime I release a video. And I'll leave a link up here for one of my other videos just to see if you want to catch any of my other videos. Most likely it'll be my introduction video so you know who I am to begin with. But besides that, that is it, guys. Once more, thank you so much for joining me. You guys have a good night, and I will see you guys on the next video.